हेलो फ्रेंड्स, मेरा नाम श्रीनिवास एडवोकेट है। मैं जिस विषय पे आज बात करना चाहता हूँ वो है अप्रूवर्स एविडेंस। कई क्रिमिनल केसेस में ज़्यादातर लोग पार्टिसिपेट होते हैं, जैसे डेकॉइटी रहने दीजिए, मर्डर केस रहने दीजिए, नहीं तो बड़े बड़े क्राइम्स में क्या है, एक दो से ज़्यादा लोग कई बार मिल करके एक पर्टिकुलर क्राइम को अंजाम देते हैं। ऐसे जो क्राइम्स है जहाँ 2 से 4 से ज़्यादातर लोग पार्टिसिपेट हों, दे विल कमिट ए क्राइम। वन ऑफ द एक्यूज, इफ ही टर्न्स टू बी approver towards the police department for inquiry purpose or anything, what is credibility of such a witness? Approver who committed earlier crime with the same people, who is part and parcel of the same crime, if you want to turn to be approver towards the police department for inquiry purpose or investigation, what is the credibility of such a witness in criminal cases? If you will go through 133 Evidence Act, it says approver's evidence, how it has to be taken and what are its credibility and other things that are very much important in Evidence Act, and how far the court has to accept his evidence, how the court can rely on such a witness who was one of the accused in that particular crime, whether his evidence can be directly taken as a evidence or his evidence can be accepted by corroborative evidence of other witnesses. Then only his evidence can be admissible in the criminal case. That is very much important point. When a person already was a part of a criminal activity or criminal crime, whether he, after turning to be a police witness or approver, can his evidence be taken into account by the court or his admissibility of evidence? There are several points which are very much important in criminal trial. One of this is very much important because the person was earlier, or in the same case he was one of the participants of that crime, and he knows everything about the crime, when it has happened, what are the scenes and how it was being taken place, and what are the weapons that were being used, how many people have participated in that crime. Each and every point to that crime he has well known about it, because he is one of the person to the crime. So how far the court can accept his evidence, and whether while giving judgment, whether he is simple witness of that approval can be sole point for convicting a accused, or other corroboration of the evidence has to be taken into account along with his evidence. That is the court which has to look into, and the main point on which the approver's evidence has to be taken into account is some of the points which were being given in judgments, and several judgments have stated about those ingredients or points which are very much important while taking evidence or considering the evidence of approval. This one of the points is that regarding approver's guidelines are, as per section 133, an approver is a competent witness and conviction shall not be illegal if based upon an uncorroborated testimony of the approver. This is one. And point 2 say, according to the illustration B of section 114 of Indian Evidence Act, the court may presume that an approver is a man of untrustworthiness unless he is corroborated in material particulars. Third point is, the court should not ordinarily convict unless the evidence of the approver is corroborated in material particular qua the accused, and if more than one qua each accused. Such point 4 says, such corroboration can be direct and circumstantial. If the evidence of an approver is inherently impossible or is otherwise unreliable or unacceptable, it should be rejected straight away without caring to seek corroboration. There are several circumstances by which the reliability of an approver has to be adjudged. The approver should be participant criminal on his own admission or appear to be so by evidence. This is a judgment of Supreme Court, Datta Ram versus State of Rajasthan, 1977, Criminal Law Journal, 1428. In this judgment, these points are being elaborately or being considered, or finding was given as per these points, which are very much important. Now coming to other point which is very much important as per section 133 of Indian Evidence Act. What is approver's credibility? So it is not illegal to convict a person on the uncorroborated testimony of an accomplice. Act lays down as rule of prudence based upon experience that an accomplice is unworthy of credit unless his testimony is corroborated material particulars. This is one of the main point, because he was one of the accomplice to the particular crime. How his evidence can be taken and trustworthy? That is, unless corroboration is required with the other independent witnesses. How his evidence can be trusted and conviction can be based on his evidence. And the other point, it is always prudent to look for independent corroboration. And this is Darshan Singh versus State of Punjab, where it is said that independent corroboration of evidence should be there with regard to that particular offence. Solely basing on the approver's evidence, the conviction can be held by the trial court. So some of the other points are: accomplice need corroboration material particular, but not on all insignificant details. One tainted evidence cannot corroborate another tainted evidence. This is some of the points with regard to the credibility of that particular approver in a criminal trial. And moreover, some other points are: evidence of accomplice is required to be reliable, and the court should also see if it has been corroborated in material particulars by other independent evidence. The first test of reliability of approver or accomplice evidence for the court to satisfy that there is nothing inherently impossible in the evidence, and after that corroboration become necessary. These are very much: accomplice cannot corroborate another. Mode of corroboration is very much important in this trial, or approver's evidence, whether it can to be considered or not by the trial court. The corroboration mode of testimony of approver should be strengthened by corroboration, but it is impossible to lay down any rigid formula as to what kind of evidence should be treated as corroboration. The corroboration must come from independent source. Testimony of an accomplice would not be sufficient to corroborate that of the approver. Corroboration need not be direct evidence. It is enough if it be by circumstantial evidence. This is judgment of Sumeer Singh versus State of Haryana, 1977, Criminal Law Journal, notes 32. These are very much important points with regard to the credibility of a approver in a criminal cases where the heinous offences are there, and the offence is such that it may be murder case or dacoity or any case which is serious in nature. In those cases, sometimes the prosecution will come up with a approver who will be one of the co-accused in that particular crime. Whether his evidence or his evidence in the court, prosecution can take his evidence to solely base conviction by the trial court. But the trial court can solely base conviction basing on the approver's evidence, because he was one of the accomplices to that particular crime. If such evidence is more than enough to convict accused in a trial for a criminal case, or independent evidence has to be brought on record, his evidence has to be corroborated with the evidence of the approver. These things are very much important while trial and the judgment, because if out of 5 or 10 accused or 2 accused or 4 accused in a criminal case, if one due to some reason turns to be a approver, what will be the consequences of that case? Whether his evidence is very much important, or his evidence can be sole base for convicting an accused without having any independent witness. These are some of the judgments which I have just read before you. These are the judgments where said corroboration of independent witness is very much important, because it is not a case that merely a person like approver evidence of his during the course of trial can be base for a conviction. the corroborative evidence has to be very much important as per the judgments, and solely basing on his judgment, the conviction cannot be done or cannot be invoked as per the judgments which are there. And now if you will go through the judgment which I just now read before you, those things are very much important. Approver, when turned in on the favor of investigating agency for giving evidence before the trial court, a sole basing on that judgment evidence in a trial court, it are somewhat chances that corroboration is very much important. Solely basing on his sole evidence, the case cannot be convicted. The trial court has to look into other evidence also. Then only the conviction can be based for such evidence. And the remaining evidence is supposed to be taken into account. By going through all the evidences, the conviction or acquittal has to be ordered or pronounced by the trial court. Today my topic was with regard to 133 Evidence Act, which says approver's evidence in a trial of criminal cases. Thank you for watching this video. My name is Anil Srinivas. Thank you, friends.